E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guimwa, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guimwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, it's Thursday. Pets we love. And we have a really awesome show lined up for you today.
Yes, we do, ladies and gentlemen, because it was Donna's idea originally when we came up with the daily programs to let's do Pets We Love on Thursday, because she's such an animal lover and we all love our animals. And before we get started in that, I'd like to give a shout out to all of the medical staff who attended to my little great-granddaughter, Mia Rose, who had open heart surgery yesterday. And my granddaughter, Michaela, she texted me, and if they thought it was 2 holes originally, it turned out to be one big one. And she said it was 3 centimeters. I'm going like, centimeters? My goodness gracious. That's a little over an inch. And I checked to see if it was 3 millimeters. She said, no, it was 3 centimeters. One big one to surprise them. But all of the prayers and all of the thoughts and things that people, contacted me, notes and, just everything. Thank you so much. And I just want to give a shout out to the medical doctors and all the medical staff, because they're there for us in our hour of need. And we need to give thanks. We need to be, grateful that in this day and time, we have medical personnel who are trained that many times we never meet them.
Right.
And they take care of us in our hour of need. And what a blessing, what a blessing, what a blessing. And I also want to give a shout out to Donna for just saying, Jim, don't worry about the TV show. I got this, we'll take care of it. And she just, she got up in the morning, she'd eat a big bowl of Wheaties, and she has got the job done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, Jim, I said it to you earlier. We're not just family, and, we're family and partners. So no thanks are needed, because honestly, it's a no-brainer. You do the same for me and have when I've had things going on in my life that I've had to attend to. So we're just super thankful that Mia is okay, and now she can, heal and have a incredibly
normal life,
wonderful, normal, productive life.
Yeah, because when you're born like that, when babies are born like that with a hole like that, the main thing is everybody hopes and prays that the hole will heal itself naturally.
Right.
And when it does, it requires surgery. And I was teasing her the other Monday night when I was with her, because we're going to do it on Tuesday morning, but the heart team, the doctors, a surgical team, they had to do a heart transplant. So they wanted to, get that completed, because that could not wait. And they wanted to rest a little bit before they did the 5-hour surgery with her. But anyway, little Mia Rose, I was showing, because I had open heart surgery on November the 1st last year. And I told her we're going to be zipper buddies. And she's familiar with that term. And I said, you'll see my zipper. So I showed her the scar on my chest. And she looked at it with her little eyes, because she's only about 4. And I says, now yours is not going to be this big. And she looked at it. She says, no way. No way. Bless her little heart. But thank you so much. And we just want to give thanks. And for all of you folks out there that, in my family, my friends, and folks who are finding out about everything, we're just so grateful, and we give thanks, and we rejoice in those times and embrace those times, because times like that is what makes life worth living. And times like this, when we lose a pet, we're on vacation, whatever, and the pet gets lost, and we find that pet, What
right?
a wonderful jubilee and reunion that is for all of us, isn't it, Donna?
It really is. It really is. It's our pets are really interesting creatures.
Oh, yeah.
And, we've talked about heroic stories and
Hmm.
how amazing they are. But today we're going to do something a little different. And we're going to start this out with the science uh, behind pets that find their way home.
Mm.
So, this is kind of interesting because I don't think any of us out there have not heard of a time when pets haven't found their way home.
Hmm.
And some of them through the most insurmountable odds out there,
Oh, yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
it says here in this article that uh, it's really quite something, but it says, it's a pity that we can't ask a dog for the shortest route home when you're lost, or a cat, or a seabird, or a tortoise, um, or it says in here, or even the dung beetle, for
Yeah.
that matter. Because if you'd ask any of them to get how to get pretty much anywhere, odds are they'd know more than we think they do.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
right? So the animal navigation has been something of a black box for scientists, right? So we don't really
Hmm.
understand the mystery of how, without benefit of maps, language, or
Hmm.
GPS, they manage to find their way from place to place, and often over great distances.
Hmm.
And it said in this article that it's presented itself anew when I recently when a dog walked 11 miles from its new home to return to a former foster owner.
Yeah, that gets me, and that leads me into a little story. We had we had this Australian cattle dog, and we got one as a pup, and then a friend of mine got its brother. Well, after the dog was about 2 years old, and the wife says, "I'm sorry, but you got to get rid of the dog." They lived out in the country. He just, the dog just basically was raised itself mainly, other than being fed, because he was an outdoor dog. Okay, he worked on the farm there, and he would bark at the deer, and she liked her deer coming around. So the dog is got to find a new home. So James brought him home, my son. And we thought, well, we'll try to find him a home, but finding a home for a 2-year-old dog is not the easiest thing in the world. So we decided to keep him. And we were not real sure if he was going to take to us or not. One day he takes off and he's gone. And I kind of figured, well, he's probably trying to find his way back to the original home. He was gone for a couple of days. We put flyers up, we looked for him, etc. And then he decided on his own. One day, my son's looking out the window and he says, "Hey, there's Lobo." Here he decided to come back. He kind of figured, well, okay, I guess these people are not too bad after all, or whatever reason. But he had to come to grips with, having a new home. So when you talked about that dog traveling 11 miles
Hmm.
to return to the former foster home that he had, it just goes to show how much they love us and attach themselves to us.
Oh, absolutely. When my father quit high school, he was
Hmm.
16. He dropped out of high school and he went into the army at that time.
Hmm.
And he left. And his dog Prince was a Springer Spaniel. I
Hmm.
believe it was Prince. Um, Up and left the day after he left. And my grandpa was really upset about it. And he didn't looked everywhere. And back then in Bozeman, it was a real small town. So,
Hmm.
everybody knew everybody and they knew their animals and
Hmm.
what have you. And he couldn't find that dog anywhere. And he just kind of gave up and he thought to himself, how in the heck am I going to tell, you know, Don that his dog's gone?
Hmm.
And the morning of the day that dad came home, the dog appeared.
How do you
And it
explain
and
that?
it wasn't no couple of days. It was I believe, and I I can't quite remember 100%, but I want to say he was gone a minimum of 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
minimum of 6 months, and the dog just left.
And then he came back the day he was coming home, huh?
He knew when my dad was coming home.
Wow. How do that just blows my mind because the dog did not get a text message or
Well,
a letter in the mail.
I had a cat. His name was Poe. And when I would come back to Arizona to visit, and I would come down Broadmoor, there was this one particular area when I'd hit Broadmoor in the car
Mhm.
that I swear to you, God is my witness, that cat would raise his head and look out the window and jump up on the sill of the window and start meowing. He knew.
Mm.
And it wasn't once he did this, because I came home several times to visit and would bring the cat,
Wow.
and that cat would do it every single time.
Mm.
Every single time.
It just blows your mind how smart animals are and how in tune they are to nature because animals, birds, and everything like that. I mean, you see birds that you quit flying in the sky and then the sky gets dark. You know a
Oh, yeah.
storm is coming.
Yeah. I
And
always pay attention to the birds first.
oh yeah, absolutely. And when we were in Vietnam, if you're out and you hear birds chirping or something like that, you're going to be okay. But if birds are
Hmm.
not chirping and there's no,
There's no
that is a
sound.
that's a big time warning sign.
Yep.
That's a
Absolutely.
big time warning sign. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's just how in tune they are. And yeah, I love the story. Well, I don't love the story, but I mean, it was interesting when the animals started running away from, and everybody's running, wondering what's going on here. And then, a short time later, a tsunami appears,
Hmm.
but they get that, they have that special gift that they're in
Right.
tune with nature.
Right.
And like in your dad's case there with his dog, my goodness, how do you explain that dog arriving back home the same day he's coming home? I mean,
Right.
that's just
Yep. It's just it's something special about our
mhm.
animals, and
Yeah.
they um we know so much about them, but yet science has barely really scratched the surface to truly understanding
Hmm.
animals. But,
Oh
like
yeah.
in this story about this dog, the thing that was so remarkable about this was that when the dog was taken to its new location, it was
Hmm.
taken by car and
Wow.
it had found its way back on foot. So
Mm.
it didn't even have a chance to learn the route,
Mm.
by smell or anything.
Hmm.
And it found its way.
Yeah. And Donna, you shared that information with me, and I'm just glancing at it here right now, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just so amazing that in this story here, it goes on talking about, this very impressive story of a 2013 tale of they call it a
Geolocating.
geolocating cat that had been lost and found its way home after a journey of 2 months and 200 miles.
Right?
Goodness. If you took us out in the boonies somewhere,
We'd be
and
in
we're 200
trouble.
miles from nowhere, they're going to find a skeleton a few months or months later if they find us at all. I mean, unless we're really in tune with how to survive in the wild. But to
Right.
find your way back, 200 miles and I mean, you got to find a way to eat, you got to find a way to survive, and you got to remember how to keep your cat GPS, I'll call it in this case,
Right.
on target. I mean, goodness gracious. I
Well, and
mean,
it said that they're the kind of natural map that any animal follows. It depends largely on the species. And I'm being an animal lover. I've watched. I couldn't even tell you how many documentaries, etc., about animals.
mhm,
But we are born, I believe, mammals are born with a knowledge that is just innately there, Jim.
yes, yes.
We are just born with it.
Hmm.
Human, cats, dogs, way it doesn't matter, all of it. And we know things without knowing things. For example,
Hmm.
how would a whale know when it's born that it has to go somewhere else?
Mhm.
You, sorry, my cat's being a little bit of a rat. But
The
how would
cat's
they,
coming up there saying she didn't know what she's talking about. Let me tell you the way
right?
it is.
Well, she's just going to top everything over. But how do they know where they're going? How do they innately know
Yeah.
where their breeding ground is, where they're supposed to go and
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and travel
Yeah.
where
Like
the
the
where the
salmon.
best fit? Yes, they
Yeah.
just know this.
Yeah. It just blows my mind. And, no one, no scientist or anyone has been able to really explain it. We can have ideas and theories and things like that. But when it comes right down to it, I don't think anyone really understands the magnitude of this innate, if you want to call it gift or wisdom or whatever it might be, this talent that they have, that they're given. And it's just they're born with it, like you said,
Right.
Donna. They're just absolutely born with it. My
Well, and it
goodness.
says that also that animals navigate via magnetism,
Hmm.
orienting themselves along the north-south lines of the Earth's magnetic fields. In
Hmm.
one study of baby sea turtles, which typically migrate east after hatching, changing the orientation of magnetic generators around a swimming pool changed the direction in which the hatchlings swam to.
Would you say that again, please, ma'am? I'm trying to get my mind around that one there.
Right. So it's just saying that they believe that animals navigate via our Earth's magnetic fields, right, and that they orienting themselves along the north south lines of the Earth's magnetic fields. In one study of baby sea turtles, which typically migrate east after hatching, changing the orientation of magnetic generators around a swimming pool changed the direction in which the hatchlings swam to.
Mm.
How interesting is that?
That's above my my pay grade to understand it or explain it. I'll just say that it's just wow, just one of those wow moments.
Right?
And Donna, it just goes to show you that how in tune to their life, to nature, that animals are. I mean, on all levels, from the insects up to the giraffe, the elephants. I mean, my
Right.
goodness, we're so we're so far out of touch with ourselves that it's a wonder if we even survive. I'll tell you that.
Well, when we think about it, like when we take our dogs for a walk
Hmm.
and they mark their territory and they stop and smell everything and sometimes as humans I think we get a little like, oh gosh, is this ever going to end? Come on, buddy. Come on, let's
Hmm.
go. But you know what? That's their innate compass. That's what
Hmm.
they do. They're smelling who's been there. Is it a danger? Is it friend? Is it foe? Um, is it a male? Is it a female? Is it what's going on? Because
Hmm.
that's one of the ways, of course, in which animals understand other animals is by scent, right?
Hmm.
We always kind of laugh at when another cat or another dog goes up and smells each other's hind end, you know, but that's I that's their way of also saying, "Hey, how you doing?"
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
And
Also, they sense the health of the animal too. They really
absolutely,
do. Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm glad it's them and not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just, the more I read about these animals like this, like that 11-mile distance, that's really
Right,
not a terrible long distance for a dog. But the director of the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists and professor at Texas A&M University said if the dog had walked both from and back to his home, he'd be following his own scent trail. In this case, the dog was instead probably following an equally compelling smell that is of its owner, or that type
right.
of navigation that is entirely possible over a very long distances as long as the wind is right. And I can't subscribe to that 100% because I still roll back into the innate um, gift, I'll
The
call it
innate
that.
knowledge.
Yes, that the animals have that gives them their internal GPS, if I could use that phrase. And it just blows my mind. It also brings great joy to us when we
Mhm.
find, hear stories of a lost dog, because we know the way the family suffers when they lose a beloved member of their family.
Oh, it's
And then,
heartbreaking.
later on, here I am, I made it, and there's so many stories like that, it really is. I'm sorry about that. I forgot to squelch my uh, cell phone. People are still calling me and talking to me about Mia Rose and all that. And I appreciate that, but not during the broadcast time, obviously. So,
Um, so I guess it's like they have their own microchip, right?
mhm.
Their own microchip to get home.
Oh yeah.
Um, one of the other things that is really fascinating to me about animals is when they have had to lose a leg, whether it be
Mm.
in nature or be by accident and have had to
Hmm.
have an amputation.
Hmm.
One of the things that I have seen, and I've seen it firsthand with, um, I remember Sharon Jones's cat when I was a little girl and we'd go back to Montana. Inky, black cat with three legs. And that cat was faster on three legs, pulling chicken off the picnic table than any cat with four legs ever could be. But it's a God's truth.
I
I
just
mean,
I
it's
just
like,
pictured that.
oh, absolutely. But for me, what is so interesting about that with animals is they adapt so well.
Hmm.
And for me, it's a lesson to learn that I
Hmm.
consistently try and learn from my own animals and other animals in my life is
Hmm.
how to adapt and not
Oh
feel
yeah.
sorry for myself. Okay. We as humans are like, woe is me, feel sorry for me. Um, and this is probably a touchy subject, but there's a lot of people when they get older, it's like, oh my gosh, I got a wrinkle. I got to do something about it. To me, I'm like, man, I've earned it.
Hmm. Yeah,
I've earned it.
exactly.
Life is not, a bed of roses. So I've earned those wrinkles. I've earned these ones on my forehead. I know
Hmm.
they're there and I know they're there big.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
okay with it. I'm okay with it. But, animals accept what is and
Hmm.
they don't look at what could have been.
Mm.
And I think they have that becomes, in my opinion, and I could be very wrong, but in my humble opinion, I believe that's part of what makes him so easy to have unconditional love because there's no
Oh yeah.
expectations, right?
Mm.
They don't worry about the past, they don't worry about the future. They're in the moment.
Mm. Yeah. That's
What
like
a
that
lesson,
saying. Yeah, that's like that saying we've seen many times in our lives. Someone would, either type a message on Facebook or post something that says, "What if today was the last day of your life? What would you
right?
do?" You know,
Right.
and that's a good checkup question from the neck up. Is a good
Absolutely.
checkup from the neck up, as Zig Ziglar used to say. But it's really a good question, and it's something we should always strive to live for in our life and remember in our life that today could be our last day on planet Earth.
Well, and something else to look at on in another way of looking at that same thing
Mhm.
is today could be somebody that you love's
Oh,
last day on this earth that you haven't
amen.
reached out to, that maybe you should have. And the last thing we want in our life is coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Mm,
I
I've
could have
been
done it.
there.
I could have, I should have done
Mm,
it. I would have
mhm.
done it if I had known.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a way
Oh,
to suffer and go through life.
I've been like that. And that's why in the show, we talk a lot about loving yourself first and you love others. But also, as Donald likes to say, you love yourself enough to give yourself.
Grace.
Yeah, because we all make mistakes. We're all imperfect. We all do things that we probably shouldn't do. I'm not talking about anything, bad or anything like that. I'm talking about being preoccupied with things when we could take that same time and be
Right.
more productive by getting in touch with a family member or a friend. And if we lose that person, that's when the slack comes out of the chain. That's when the
Mhm.
guilt comes in. That's when those bad feelings come in. And I think we've all been there.
Mhm.
And it's just we should, as we often say when it comes to dogs, that unconditional love. Can you
Absolutely.
imagine what a wonderful world this world would be if everyone had the loving heart of a dog? Because Donna, like you like to point out, that love from a dog, it is totally, say that word. I know you know it. It's
Uh,
totally unconditional.
yep, it is unconditional. And
Yeah.
even like I with my own dog and with my four amazing cats, hellions at times, but they're amazing. Each each of them, just like people, they have their own personality, right?
Mhm.
Your
Yeah.
cat, Dixie, has her little personality. But what is amazing to me, and I think we've all seen it, three of my cats are blood sisters,
Mhm.
and they're nothing alike. One is a Bombay, one's a Siamese, and one's a Russian blue, and they're all blood sisters.
Hmm.
And each one of them is so different in their personality with me.
Mm.
And all four of the cats will only sleep on my side of the bed.
Hmm.
They will not snuggle and curl into my husband.
Hmm.
And he's as big a cat lover as they come.
Mhm.
But it's just, he said, it's something about you.
Yeah.
It's something about you. All the
Mhm.
cats I had before, with the when I first moved back here and I brought with me, every one of them would snuggle in bed with me.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
always been that way. It's
Mhm.
always been that way. And it's not that they don't love my husband, and it's
Mhm.
not that Edgy doesn't love them, but it's just something. He said, I don't know what it is. He said it's really kind of interesting because he said it's not uncommon for me to wake up and look over and there's cats just wrapped around you in
Mhm.
bed, like
Oh,
they're
yeah.
always there protecting you.
Mhm. In this report here, this information you sent me, Donna, they talk about cats like other animals. They suggest they may rely on magnetic fields
Yes.
because a study came out. There are some studies, excuse me, that show that the ears of most mammals contain iron. So right there, you got to stop and say, hey,
Hmm.
why would mammals, cats, dogs, and the like have iron in their ears
Right.
because that would definitely be affected by the magnetic field.
Absolutely.
And they say that may cue them in the magnetic direction in the ground.
Right.
There's work showing that cattle, deer, and voles tend to orient in a north south direction. And it just blows my mind that when scientists find out something that I didn't know until today that most mammals have iron in their ears,
Right.
but I do understand compasses and magnetic force. And it was not put there because, well, what else we got to put in this animal here? Well, we got some iron. Let's put some iron in it.
Right. Right.
That'd be something humans may do, but not the creator. I mean, it just goes to show you how brilliant this
Hmm.
entire universe, including the animals that love us and are here for our comfort. Oh my goodness. The more we know, it shows us the more we do not know. It just blows my mind. And you know, Donna, in your life and my life, animals are a big part of it because they are when you come home, if you've had a bad day or something's bothering you, they seem to have the ability to pick up on that and say, hey, you need my attention, speaking of the animal. And they give it to you. And the other, of course, over the last few days, obviously our family was, we were on an emotional roller coaster with
Oh,
everything going on.
absolutely.
And Dixie came up to me. I'm sitting in an easy chair, and she let me know, hey, mister, you need some love.
Hmm.
And that's just the way and she slept with me every night. And
Uh-huh.
if I don't get up early enough, she walks on me and says,
Right.
now it's time for you to get out of bed, so she can tell time too.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad my cats don't walk on me.
Oh yeah, Dixie does. I mean, she lets me know, hey, buddy, you've been in bed long enough. You got things to do. There's chores you need to do for me. Let's get it up. Let's get it in gear, and
Right.
let's get out of here.
My
And she's
cat
not going.
dishes down 3 morsels.
Yeah, and she's not gonna let me rest until I get up and get it in gear because she'll reach out and paw me.
Right.
And
Right.
you're not gonna, no, you're not gonna be. You cannot be lazy around here. That's not your job, servant.
But this next article, Jim, about the
Mm.
7 dogs who fought the odds and found their way home.
Amen.
This is just something, guys, really touches my heart. But
Hmm.
it says, we talked about it. Nobody wants their dog lost. And it's always amazing when you hear how some dogs have been missing for, a couple of weeks, or what about the ones who have been missing for years? On
Ooh.
others who have managed to travel thousands of miles
Mm.
and find their way home. So this one is Murphy is out of the woods after 2 years.
Mm.
5-year-old golden retriever Murphy went missing in California's Tahoe Forest on a camping trip in 2012. Her
Mm.
family conducted an exhaustive search, posted flyers, and maintained a Facebook page for their missing family member,
Mm.
but didn't receive a single lead
Mm.
until June of 2014, when a
Mm.
camper at a site about 5 miles from the spot where Murphy went missing saw a thin dog in the woods.
Mm.
Murphy's family brought a blanket and clothes to the campsite and left them out, hoping to attract their dog. And it worked, according to the site manager. On the very first night, there was Murphy sleeping on a blanket. Okay, that'll make me
Oh,
cry right here, right
oh,
now.
I'm just thinking about the poor family. Imagine going out there on a family vacation, get together, you take the dog, we're all going to have fun, and the dog gets lost, and you've got to make that gut wrenching decision. You've got to go, leave, and
I
the
don't know if
dog
I
is not
could.
coming home. I
I
mean,
don't know
it's
if I
just,
could.
uh, you
I
know,
really don't. I don't know if I could.
I hear you. I'm with you on that. That's
Because my husband laughs. I would literally, if it was,
let him go home and stay home.
yeah, but I mean, I'm the kind of person and that if I couldn't afford to buy animal food and it
Mm.
was just human food and there was this much on the plate, I would get this much and the rest would go to my 5 animals.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
I would take
absolutely.
barely a fourth of it,
Mhm. Yeah,
barely a fourth
yeah,
of it, because I
yeah.
would make sure that they get fed.
Mhm. Several years ago, I lost one of my top dogs, you might say. They're all top dogs, but this boy here was extra special to me. He was my riding buddy. He was my sidekick for over 10 years. I lost him to pneumonia, and when he got sick, he was gone within 48 hours from the time I knew he was sick. And a friend called me up and he says, "How you doing, Jim?" I said, "Well, you normally say things like I'm making or I'm hanging in there." I don't remember what I said, but I do remember telling him this. I said, "One thing I can tell you, brother, it is so hard to try to dig a grave with tears in your eyes."
Mhm.
Oh, man. And I would spend days, you know, I remember one day I took a count. I made 12 trips because I live out in the country. We have a little pet cemetery there. I made 12 trips in one day to his grave,
Mhm.
and the water would flow from my eyes
Mhm.
because it stabbed me that much. And what really puts salt on the wound, and I know you folks out there in TV land can understand this, that everywhere I looked in the house,
There he was.
he should be there,
Mhm.
but he's gone. And it's permanent. And when he was passing away, I made the comment to him as he was breathing his last. I said, "It's okay, buddy, to go home." And that bothered me because that's
It made
something
me
normally,
cry, Jim.
yeah. Well, anyway, it bothered me, but I'm thankful that it did because it led me on a journey of why did I say that? And I created a document, and people have been after me to turn it into a book. And I call it Paw Prints in Heaven. Because, yes, for those of us that believe in the Christian religion, if we're made in his image, and we are, I mean, if we love our pets, you know he loves them too, because he created them, you know. And I don't believe he would let an animal that we love just drift out into
Right.
nowheresville. And yes, there's proof of animals in heaven, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I did write a document on that, recording what I found, because I found a lot of ignorance among educated people in the religious world, and um, but still, let me wrap up my story about that. It's, we've all been there when we've had to say our final goodbye to our pet, and the way the tears flow, and be thankful that you had that beautiful pet in your life, and give grateful, be very, very thankful. If you go look in the mirror, that's one you need to worry about, but you will see them again, and that's the beauty. And up there, there's no fleas, there's no aches and pains, you know there's no rabies or anything like that up there for them to deal with. They're going to be, and it's just, I better hush on that. I'm going to go on and on and on, but
Well, I just want to say that, and this is about cats. For anyone out there who does not know this,
mhm.
if you have a cat that gets lost, or you've moved and the cat jumps out the door, because they can be squirrely creatures, as we know, um, but they get lost. One of the things to do is make sure, and this needs to be at the front and the back door, is take whoever that cat is closest to,
Mm,
take a dirty shirt, one that has not been laundered, and put out front, out back.
mm,
Also, if you put their cat bucks outside, because they smell their own scent, and
mhm.
remember that a cat and or a dog, but as we're talking about cats, their smell or sense of smell is so great
Oh
that
yeah.
they'll smell it, a long, long ways away.
Mhm,
And if it's an indoor cat that's actually escaped, chances are it's scared the living crap out of its own self. And I found that they hide in the bushes, because I've had this happen with my own cats, little rascals. And I'd go out at night with a flashlight, and I'd be calling them, and always look in the bushes beside the house and
mhm.
at your neighbors, and don't leave any bush unturned,
Yeah.
because inside cat that's only been inside will be really super scared, and they tend
Mhm,
to kind of shrink and want to hide in a safe space, and that's usually up against the wall of the house.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I tell you, that's a very good point, because when it comes to cats, I mean, goodness, I love that old saying that dogs live with you, you live with cats, because
Oh,
that's very, very true. They're independent animals, but yet in their own way, they can't live without you. They
right,
just attach themselves to you, because after all, cats have staff. I
right.
don't know where that term came from, but it's true. Dogs have owners, and cats have staff, or something like that. But when it comes to these animals that find their way home,
Oh,
I mean, goodness gracious. There was a little Petunia had an 8-year adventure, it talks about here in
it's a little
2003.
pit bull.
Yeah, a little pit bull. Mhm. Back in 2003, Petunia ran out of the backyard of her family's Virginia home, and despite months of searching for her, they were just not able to track her down or find her. In 2011, this is 8 years later, from 2003 to 2011, a good Samaritan found a stray dog in a wildlife area near Sacramento, California, and brought her to a shelter to be scanned for the microchip. Well, you guessed it. The chip proved the dog was Petunia, 8 years and 2,600
2,600 miles.
from home. Wow. Where she had been for those 8 years, nobody knows. But rest assured, her family was thrilled to have her back. My goodness gracious. I
Right?
mean, 2,600 miles away. And I think microchips is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful way to help protect your animal, especially if your animal is lost and someone tries to take care of it or want to adopt it, and they take it to the vet and it gets scanned. That microchip will tell who the original owner is, and that's
Right.
very, very important. I think that's a wonderful um, invention that we have now,
It is. It
and
is.
it's just a blessing.
It's been a big help for animal
Hmm.
owners.
Oh yeah.
So this next one is a little Jack Russell named Gidget, and Gidget goes to Portland. So this little terrier made headlines in 2014 for being found near Portland, Oregon, over 2,700 miles from her Pennsylvania home.
Mm.
Gidget's happy ending was made possible again by her microchip, which led shelter workers to know that she had a home.
Hmm.
When Gidget's owner said she couldn't afford to travel to pick Gidget up, her microchip company stepped up to cover the expense, and the dog was reunited with her family just a few weeks later.
Wow. It's really a shame, ladies and gentlemen, that the writer of this article did not do the prudent thing and recognize the microchip company that
Company, right?
stepped up, because that's something we always do. We always want to mention people that and companies that do good things, because with all the doom and gloom out there, they did a wonderful thing here. Think about how that owner felt knowing that the microchip company says no problem, we will cover the expense. Wow, that just blows my mind.
You want to read this next one?
I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it. It says Bucky, there's an article here. It says Bucky would walk 500 miles. A black lab named Bucky walked over 500 miles and to find his dad after being relocated from South Carolina to Virginia. Now, Bucky's dad had temporarily rehomed the dog with a family in Virginia because his South Carolina community banned dogs. But apparently, Bucky missed his old stomping grounds too much to stay still. In other words, Bucky didn't get the memo from these people. He took off from Virginia and showed up back in South Carolina just a few weeks later. Again, a microchip saved the day. The Good Samaritan who found Bucky a few miles from his home took him to the vet's office to be scanned, and the information on the chip led them right back to Bucky's dad. That's, how do animals do this? I mean, we
Right?
we talked about that earlier, but I mean, you got to ask yourself a question: how is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people get lost in remote areas, from time to time, and the cat says, "Yeah, and people they don't know what they're doing. They need to, here I am." But
Oh.
people get lost, and you get turned around. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's very, very easy to get turned around in the
Mm-hmm.
in the woods.
Oh yeah.
And
Super easy.
I'll tell you something else. This is a nicety to know. You can just practice this going down the road in your car. If you're not driving, of course, if you're a passenger, turn and look at the terrain from time to time behind you. Because as you're going through it this way on the return trip coming back,
It
the
looks different.
terrain is going to look different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's a good nicety to know, especially when you're in the woods and you're hiking or something. You might say, well, I'm going to be on a trail. I can't be lost. Da, 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 da. Don't trust yourself.
Well, you can always do things by marking the trail in that kind of
Hmm.
case. You
Sure.
can, if you are on a trail and you can snap the end of a tree every so many feet
Hmm.
on the end, kind of gives
Hmm.
you, won't really hurt the tree, but it will give you some guidance if you're not sure. But always have a compass.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to share. This is a real short story on this little
Okay.
Yorkie, Bailey.
All right.
Bailey the Yorkie comes home after 6 years. Bailey was stolen from his family's El Paso yard in
Ooh.
2008. and was found roaming the streets, excuse me, of Indianapolis in 2014. What happened in the intervening years is still a mystery. But one thing is for certain: his family is delighted to have him home and very glad they had him microchipped when he was a puppy.
Mm, mm, mm. That just blows my mind. It really does.
Right?
Uh, Over and over again, we hear how microchips validate who the original owner is of these dogs and these pets, and it's just extremely necessary. And I
It
feel
is.
in
And also, we hear about this when the hurricanes and stuff happen, and the
hmm
pets get separated, right? Those pets are stranded. They're fighting for their life, and people come out in the boats and what have you and rescue as many of the dogs and cats and stuff as they can, and take them to a shelter where they can be safe. And one of the best ways that they can help the animal and the owner is by microchip. So, folks, it's, usually anymore you can get it done super, super inexpensive. Back in
Yes.
the day when it first came out,
hmm
you may as well take a loan out to get your animal microchipped. But,
Oh
but,
yeah.
but now I think you can get it as for like 15, $20.
hmm Yeah. Absolutely. And if you see an animal that appears to be out of place, who living out in the country, we see dogs uh, rarely, thank God, rarely, but occasionally, once in a 5 or 6 years, we may see a dog that it appears someone may have abandoned it or it got lost or whatever the case is. Be sure and make some pictures of it, put it on a poster,
Yeah.
let somebody know, let the vets know. Hey, I found this dog in my area because we had a dog come up to our house. And this kind of surprises me a little bit. And I was able to, befriend the dog and got it. And this was it was an Australian cattle dog. It was a blue heeler. So I knew someone would be missing that dog because I know what those dogs mean to people. I know what all dogs mean to people. And so I got the dog, got it in the truck, took it up to the vet. And I said, "Do you know this dog? This dog just came to my house. I know that's lost or wandered off or something. I don't think anybody would abandon a purebred dog like that." But anyway, they said, "Well, one of the techs says, we've seen that dog. We know that dog." So they took it in, scanned it. And sure enough, the owner, he was a client there. And I told him, I said, "Well, here's my name and phone number." And I thought I'd at least get a thank you from him, but I didn't get anything. Nothing. They returned the dog to him. I don't know if he got the message or not, but I never received anything. But my point being, whether I got a thank you, a call, or nothing makes no difference. If I see an animal like that again, I'm going to do the same thing because of my love for animals.
Right?
It's when it's the right thing to do, it's the only thing to do in life.
Absolutely. So I'd like to share a little story about Giggle Blizzard the cat, right? So this story says, say
Say that
that.
with a straight face one more
That's what it
time.
says. It says, Giggle Blizzard. Say that 3 times quickly without laughing. They say that cats have 9 lives, but they only have 4 legs. But the inevitable Giggle Blizzard managed to travel home 2 legs down over the course of what must have been an agonizing 11 days.
Hmm.
The cat's owner, Tracy Stager, put up posters all over the area and organized search parties to find her beloved cat, but to no avail. She heard stories of a car hitting and killing a cat in her area and
Hmm.
saw a vulture with a whisker protruding ominously
Ooh.
from its beak. Neither of these victims turned out to be Giggle Blizzard. He was way too much of a badass. It turns out the feisty feline had had its back legs crushed by a car, but in what must have been extreme example of he dragged his mangled body all the way home to a still hopeful mom. It's uncertain exactly how far Giggle Blizzard traveled, but given the fact that it had taken him 11 days to return,
Hmm.
it's likely it was quite the trek. also bear in mind that this Milo had no Otis to help him along the way.
Mm, that is incredible. That is totally incredible.
And
It's
again,
amazing.
their pain tolerance, people don't realize this. You
Mm,
know, I have an extremely high pain tolerance. Dogs have a much higher pain tolerance than we do. But little known, and I'm trying to remember my facts, but I do believe that cats have even higher pain tolerance than dogs.
mm,
So, you know, I we had a cat that liked to Siamese cat named Ty when I was a little girl. And Siamese love heat. They will lay in the window and have the sun
oh,
pouring
yeah.
down on them. And this dadgum cat would lay underneath the back of the car, right? So that he had the heat of the car coming from him in the garage. And we'd always have the garage door up in the summertime. And then the Arizona sun beating down on him. And he was
Mm,
happier than a pig in mud. Well, we would always got in the habit of looking under the car for Ty, right? Make sure he wasn't there. We looked, he wasn't there. My mom backed up, and I'll never forget the car. It was an old green Dodge Dart, four door. And she backed up, and there was a bump. And she said a few things I won't say on TV, but we got out, and there was no Ty. And and we're like, what the heck is going on? And I was pretty little at the time. I'd say I was around maybe 7 or 8, and looked, and that cat drug himself to the garage door for help. And we grabbed a towel, swooped him up, and took him to the vet.
mhm,
It had crushed his one leg, completely crushed his pelvis.
mm,
So he worked on him and gave him a sedative and got him all fixed up as best he could be. And he said, go home, keep him in a box with the litter box.
mhm,
He won't be able to really move for at least about 10 days to 2 weeks. And when he's ready, he'll get out of the box, make it high enough that he just can't climb out, but not too high that when he's ready, he can't get out. Well, sure
mhm.
enough, he got out. But that cat, now, you know the old cartoons where the cat takes the corner and his butt's clear back here and he's coming around like that, right?
Mhm.
Well, that was Ty because of his crushed pelvic. So every
Mm,
time he took a corner, his hind end was just coming like this. But it never slowed him down. And so,
mhm.
you know, they're remarkable that way.
Yeah.
And I remember him just kind of going, meow, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like screaming. It was like
Mhm.
you knew he was hurt and you knew he was in pain.
Mm,
But it's amazing because of the pain tolerances
mm.
all our animals out in the whole entire world have.
Oh, yeah. And the main thing I'm getting out of that story there, Donna, is that no matter what happened to him, he did not stop living.
No,
And that's something we got to do. We got to keep on keeping on when the going gets tough because sometimes life is not good to us. Sometimes we go through tough times. And I remember hearing here the recently about a person talking about if why do bad things happen to good people? Well, if good things only happen to good people and bad things only happen to bad people, my goodness gracious, we'd all be striving to be good. But the problem
right?
of that is, if bad things never happen to us, that is when we have the opportunity to not only grow ourselves, but to also be a blessing to someone else who is going through a time of struggle in their life.
Right.
Because we've been there, we've done it. We've always been doing good things, and only good things happen to us. We can't relate to them.
Right. It's like you know, if you're always healthy, you take
Mhm.
it for granted. But
Yeah.
when you get sick and you're laid out for a week, miserable than miserable, right? Your nose hurts from a runny nose and etc. You know what? You realize what a wonderful thing it is to be
Mhm.
healthy.
Oh yeah, and you get grumpy too. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know. But our time is gone, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. We want to thank you so much for tuning in, and on behalf of Donna and our staff here behind the scenes at our TV show, we want to thank you because our show has continued to go and grow, and we feel honored that you take time out of your busy day to be able to be with us
Mhm.
and to appreciate our show. Thank you so very, very much. Be sure and send us an email at inspiration at e360 tv.com. If you'd like for us to give a shout out for you, to whoever you would like to, it would be our honor. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Remember to love yourself first, then you can love others. And as Don likes to say, love yourself enough to give yourself
grace.
Grace. There you go. I knew she could do it. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a wonderful afternoon or evening. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.